morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Shreya, a final year student from Nizam College and also a campus ambassador at Goodmind. Thank you so much for joining us today. Firstly, I wish you all a very happy Mental Health Day. I am delighted to welcome you all. I am very delighted to welcome you all for the panel discussion on the topic therapy, a luxury or a necessity. Let me take a moment to thank our esteemed guests, Pratibha Somu, Sarosh Sandani, Hema Chirupati, Jayanti Subramanian, Rajni ma'am, and Miraj Vicky. Thank you for sparing us your precious time to talk about what's important to build a caring and conscious society. Mental health is something just as important as our physical health. But somehow we never speak enough about it. India, being one of the fastest developing countries in the world, lacks general awareness when it comes to mental health. As an individual living in this society, it is very important that we try to spread awareness as information as much possible about it as we can prioritize it above all else, even more so since it affects our physical health as well. And we, Team Goodmind, plan on doing just that. Goodmind is a mental wellness platform incubated at Adventure Park, India's first student-focused, non-academic startup incubator. Goodmind aims at making mental wellness accessible and affordable while maintaining your complete anonymity of a person. Goodmind embraces hope and fights stigma by promoting best practices that encourage people to seek mental health care and ensure that it is available and accessible. We strongly believe that there must be an exchange where individuals we strongly believe that there must be an exchange where individuals express and explore their emotional needs, blocks, and solutions to their intangible challenges. In support of our beliefs, we have created an online platform where you get all the help you need anonymously. Now that you've heard about our organization, let me introduce to you and call upon the stage our CEO and co-founder, Sanya, who's also going to be the moderator for today's panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Shreya. Firstly, thank you so much. It means a lot to us for taking your time out of your busy schedules and attending this panel discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. I think we will not waste much time and we'll get started. We all know the talk. Firstly, wish you all a very happy Mental Health Day. This is something that we don't celebrate usually, but we have to. We have to start taking that step forward to talk about mental health, to come forward, to take care of our own mind, right? So yeah, happy Mental Health Day to all of you. Yes, there are a lot of misconceptions about mental health. Usually people take it, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions coming, be that with history, be that with things that we hear a lot of things. There's a lot of stigma around mental health and we all are aware of it, right? So ma'am, my first question is for you. If you could take us through the history or take us briefly through history and evolution of how actually mental health came into picture and what is the present situation and how can we make it globally accessible to everybody. So my so sorry about this. We actually have Hima Ma'am, Principal of Oak Ridge, joining us online. So, but until then, we'll get started with it. Firstly, I'm so sorry, but I first want to introduce all of the panelists. I'm sorry about this, ma'am. So we have Pratibha Somu ma'am with us. Pratibha ma'am is Goodmind's most important pillar of strength, our counselor, a member of Telangana Psychologist Association. She is an American Montessori School certified early childhood educator from Princeton Center for Teachers Education USA. She is a practicing psychological counselor and has been a mentor with Goodmind since its inception. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am, and for being our biggest support right from the beginning. We are here because we had your support. Thank you for joining us. We have Miraj Fahim. Miraj is a serial entrepreneur who started his journey as a student entrepreneur. He founded India's first coding bootcamp, the Hacking School, and founded India's first student-focused startup incubator, Adventure Park, where Goodmind is also incubated. Viraj is an innovation fellow with the Government of Telangana and consults with various state governments primarily to help them set up incubation centers and maker spaces. He is an ocean of wisdom and knowledge with the kindest heart and my inspiration as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Viraj. We have Jayanti Subramaniam ma'am. Her areas of expertise are product design, business, regulatory and clinical roadmap, sales and marketing. She brings 30 years of experience in the US healthcare market as a clinical practitioner and as the leader of multiple regulatory mandated and technology-led initiatives. Furthermore, Dr. Jay is a co-founder of DocRight, emotional wellness platform. She mentors numerous leadership programs around the US and India and serves on the board of a few healthcare startups. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Saroj Sundani ma'am. Saroj ma'am started her career with corporate event and worked at the State Board of Technical Education and Training, AP. She herself is also an entrepreneur apart from being a family and marriage counselor. Ma'am has been a great voice in promoting mental health wherever and whenever required. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. We also have Hema ma'am. Hema Chinpandi is the principal of Oak Ridge International and is a true leader and visionary. Being involved in various aspects of growth of schools and the organization, she believes that effective learning happens outside of the classroom. As a result, her vision is to create avenues for students to experience learning and benefit from the school. So, we'll be having her join in like 2 minutes. Okay. Coming back to the question, ma'am, I think we'll get started. So, like I said, ma'am, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions about mental health, and we need to change that. But for us to understand that in a better way, we also need to go back, like how it was actually worked. If you could briefly explain us about the evolution of mental health and how can we take the situations better forward.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank Goodmind for organizing this important event and for including me in this panel discussion. Without further ado, I would like to address the question on how mental health, as we know, up till now, came into being. Mental health, as we understand today, was not in the mainstream conversation till the turn of the 19th century. The understanding of mental health has evolved substantially over the last 100 odd years. The genesis of mental health discussion goes back to the efforts of a gentleman by the name Mr. Clifford W. Pierce, who was a Yale graduate and a successful businessman, but he suffered from what we know now as bipolar disorder. So he was institutionalized for this condition, and this was in early 1900s. So he was institutionalized for this condition, and his personal experiences during that episode highlighted the inhuman way such conditions were dealt with. He was entrapped, for example, he was entrapped in a straitjacket for 21 days, consecutive nights he was entrapped in that. So and his caretakers were, treating him in a very inhumane, abusive and non-empathetic way. So when he got out of that institution after 3 years of struggling with his own mental health, he wrote in his autobiography about the experiences, and he became the advocate for bringing about change in the mental health conditions of people at that time. And that's what we see right now. With his hygiene movement, he called it mental hygiene movement, that was basically was to advocate better treatment of those conditions, how to deal with them better, and also to promote mental wellness, so that that any individual going through any of the conditions are able to deal with them better. So from the term mental hygiene, what we hear now, the mental health term was adapted. So a lot of research, a lot of effort came into being, and then a lot of experimentation, scientific study, and research. It was understood that mental health is something that incorporates many other conditions. It's not just one. It doesn't mean the absence of some illness, mental illness, but it is a holistic concept that we all need to understand in a much better way. So it has evolved over the years, and now that the way we know it and how the WHO has defined it is like this. Mental health means emotional, psychological, and social well-being of an individual. So I'll elaborate on these three aspects a little more, these three facets of this, so that you understand what encompasses mental health together. Right? So when we talk about the first facet of it, the emotional well-being refers to how well people are able to manage their emotions and cope with challenging situations and events throughout life. How an individual is able to regulate his or her emotions, whether they are positive or negative, is an important aspect of emotional well-being. Emotional well-being also has to do with one's ability to deal with daily stresses in life, and also how do you navigate smoothly through stressful situations and challenges and find solutions rather than giving it up, right? So when you come to a stage when you feel that you are about to give up, that's when we got to know that there is something that's not working well with the person. And if you know that, yes, there is help that you can seek, then you can probably come to a state where you can find solutions for whatever that you can deal with, right? So when these happens, we need to be proactive about that. Now coming to the second aspect of it, which is the psychological well-being, what it means is the individual is in a state of contentment, of general happiness, and also low sense of distress. There is a sense of self-acceptance, there is an acceptance of others, there is a purpose in one's life, and there is focus on personal growth. So when you have these things happening, you know that your mind is functioning well and you are behaving in a certain way that promotes your own growth in a positive way. So you are in a state of psychological well-being at that point. Now when it comes to social well-being, what it means is that the individual is able to develop and share, sustain meaningful relationships with others. One is able to develop and maintain positive interactions. And an individual is able to collaborate, have compassion, and empathize with others around them. So social interactions, relationships are really important when it comes to your mental health. So this is when you get to share how you feel with your friends and family, and if you're not able to get support that you're seeking, you know you can go out to trusted professionals who are trained in this field to help you out navigate. So when these all facets are in collision, they are met, we know that the individual is mentally healthy. So I would like to summarize by saying that mental health is crucial regardless of what age and stage of life the individual is in. And it needs to be a priority because all your physical health also depends on how your mental health is. And I can't state the importance of it enough. The work that Mind is doing and other platforms they're doing is amazing, but it's still a drop in the ocean. We have to do a lot individually as well to make sure to create the awareness and
Thank you so much, ma'am. So now we understand how important our mental health is, right? So let's take that step forward and start taking care of ourselves, our own minds. This is the least that we could do for our own selves, right? Thank you so much, ma'am. Being a founder is definitely not easy, and me being a founder myself, I know what founders actually go through. They go through a lot of breakdowns, but still, the other day they have to come smiling. They have to forget the things that they went through, and then look after the further stuff, right? So, my next question is to Miraj sir. As you work with a lot of student founders, and you being the founder yourself, how has your experience been, and how hard or how smooth has it been, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs for their mental health check while working on their startup? I would definitely want to listen to this.
Thank you so much for actually having me to begin with, and I'm not sure how to wish, but like everybody's doing, I'll say happy mental health day. I don't know, that phrase doesn't seem grammatically correct. But yeah, we need to celebrate it today, but then we need to practice it every day. And this is definitely important. And like founders, like everybody, founders have a mind ourselves, which we keep using more often than not, of course. And while founders in general is, a niche, there's a sub-niche to it that we discovered, which is the student founders, right? And majority of the times, when we are talking about the mental well-being of a particular group of people based on their profession, all of us understand occupational hazards, right? And depending on how sensitive your profession is, there are occupational hazards for all professions, right? Nobody is safe. The chances of you getting killed when you're crossing a road is the highest, right? So technically speaking, that chance is always there. But then as a founder, I cannot stress on the fact that how many people would be getting on your nerves on a daily basis, right? So, and we are not talking about your customers, we are not talking about your partners, we are not talking about your investors, we are not talking about, outside the home people. I'm talking about the inside the home people, right? It starts with your family. It starts with, why do you want to do this? Why can't you be normal and take up a job, right? It starts from people wanting to tell you whatever you have picked up for yourself is not something that you should be doing, and everybody wants to dictate what you should be doing according to their wishes, because apparently they are invested in your life. With all due respect, maybe they are invested in their lives. But then my experience talking to founders on a daily basis, I talk to at least 20 to 30 founders on a daily basis, right? And I see at least 5 founders crying every day, right? If there is, if someday I don't see a founder crying, I question myself, are we doing it right? Right? But having said that, we don't take pride in it. The problem here is we are talking about people walking into this place with so many challenges on a daily basis and a new challenge every single day, right? And what stems all of this? What's at the root of all of this is the expectations that everybody And that's what we try to do here at Adventure Park. We try to, relax the whole thing. We try to simplify, the whole concept of whatever you want to be doing, right? Colleges, I'm sorry to say, and I think none of my talks are complete without me being controversial, but colleges are doing a very, very bad job in actually shaping up the minds, right? Half of the stress that, my student founders have is gifted by their coach, right? And I hate it. But the sad part is I cannot do anything about it because you want a degree, you need a degree, and you have to finish it. So I end up telling everybody, focus on academics, do not miss your exams, do not miss your attendance, no matter how stupid it sounds. Just go to college, sit down, give your attendance, and come back and continue working on whatever you want to be working on, right? We want to be, I really think, I very badly think we have to change this concept of what a college should look like. I very strongly believe it's now time that we have to rethink how whatever we want to be delivering has to change. This is not going to work anymore, especially considering the fact that our minds are exposed to so much on a daily basis. You cannot just make people sit in a classroom, present them whatever you had. And to be very honest, whatever you're doing is just because you're getting paid to do that. You would not choose to do it if, you are let go. So it has to change. And what I want to do, what I think we could be doing, especially since you focus on student founders, is the fact that let people be, right? I'm a very strong believer of protect your energy at all costs. If I see somebody not on the same page, I move out. If it's my office and I can't move out, I still move out, right? Because I want to protect my energy at all costs. And this is what I would recommend anybody. You getting into conversations, you getting into discussions where you have to tell people or get into explaining things, right? And I don't want to sound wrong, but it starts with your parents, right? Sit down with your parents, talk to them. It is very important. No matter what space you are in, no matter where you are, you can move out, but you're home, right? You cannot run away from your family. You cannot run away from your parents. So founders come to me with challenges from their college, challenges from their partners, challenges from their customers, challenges from their families, challenges from their friends, from the co-founders. I think the list is never ending. The least we can do is make sure that, and this is not just for founders, but everybody in general as well. What we can do, basically is be nice to everybody, not knowing what somebody is going through. No matter how fancy, no matter how exciting, no matter how jazzy things might look, there's always another side, and we have to be respectful, we have to be accommodating, we have to be tolerant, we have to be open and patient about literally everything. What we have to understand is no two people are same and everybody needs help. Like legit, everybody needs help. There is no reason for anybody to be judging anybody for their choices. You cannot enforce your expectations on anybody. That's the happiest way to live a life, both this way and that way. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Parag. Thank you for actually always being there for us and listening to us patiently for all the stupid things that we keep coming to you and telling about it to you. So it's my personal experience that I'm sharing it with you guys. Being a founder is definitely not easy, and to all the founders we have over here, I hope you all have taken something from this panel discussion and from Miraj's advice to young entrepreneurs or founders. Okay, yes. So coming on to the next question, like we said, our major important part of our life is our family and our parents, right? So we don't have that bond. We usually feel comfortable. We being in this generation, we feel comfortable sharing it with our friends rather than our parents. So it's important for us to have the bond between our parents, and it's important for parents as well to understand about their kids' mental health and take this forward, be there for them, understand their mental health. At the same time, them not being able to understand us because of the generation gap, it's our duty as well to put ourselves in their shoes and understand what are they actually going through, why are they telling that. So that brings to my next question to Saroj ma'am. Ma'am, counseling was not your initial plan. You started with a completely different field to build your career, and today you are a counselor specializing in children, family and marriage counseling. So what led you choose psychology, and what are your takes on family and marriage counseling?
Happy Mental Health Day, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. Actually, I come from a family which has mixed cultures and mixed religions. So that way, it gave me the clarity right from a very young age that one needs to be open-minded and non-judgmental. And I had a lot of family and friends always coming and talking to me about things. So when I actually had to apply for college, I did apply for my BA in psychology, and then my dad said, "How the heck are BCom coming?" So I did my BCom, I specialized in human resources. But somehow people were always my forte. People always came and spoke with me. I worked in general HR, so I had to deal with a lot of things with people on a daily basis. In doing so, of course, you get lots of perspectives, and then you do understand the importance of how much help from an individual or from a lending ear matters to people, how much it changes your life. So a lot of us try, and if we have a certain issue in our life, there must be so many things that must be bothering us. So we find ways, we have hobbies which make us get away from that issue, move away from that issue. So I would do the same. I love to cook, so I put all my energy into it. But about 10 years ago, after I had my second child, there were issues that were bothering me, and I called my best friend one day and I said, I can't do this anymore. And that was the first time that she took me to a counselor, and I met this person for about, I think, 2 or 3 sessions, and it helped me put things into perspective to a great extent. So a lot of times, in fact, most of the times, the answers lie within us. We just don't know how to process it, right? So that's the time when a structural intervention is very important. A couple of years later, I dealt with my issues, but then there was a residual anger inside. An anger because I felt that I'd taken a lot of unfairness from people around, and that happens most of the time. We feel that we've not been given a fair deal, and that leaves us with emotions and then unhealthy habits. So when I realized that I was turning into a person that I was not, from being a very happy and positive person, I was turning into somebody who's angry, who's a little bitter, not resentful, thankfully. But then that's when that was actually a big what can I say, a knock on my head, which said, no, this is not how you are, and this is not the person you will be, and you want to be. I've realized over time that we end up, it's very easy for us to forgive others, especially the people we love, but we don't forgive ourselves. So when we've dealt with something, be it having to take unfair treatment or any kind of abuse or any of that, later we blame ourselves for it. And that is when you actually need help as well. So even if you've dealt with the issue, even if the issue is out of hand, what you're left with, the feelings you're left with, if any part of those feelings are unhealthy, I think you should deal with it. So that's when I went to a therapist myself once again. It took me a couple of months. And the person I felt after that, I was a completely new person. I was myself, and I was even a better version of myself. And that is exactly when I realized this was my calling. So unknowingly, I had been helping a lot of people, and a lot of friends would come to me because they realized that, one, I didn't judge them. The second was I was always there for them. So that is what inspired me to go ahead and study further and then become a counselor. And I'm glad today, every new person that I speak with is a learning for me. Sometimes you're grateful, sometimes you help them find gratitude, you help them find answers. So it is the most satisfying thing that I've done, so I'm glad that I got into this. And then coming to the question about the family and the relationship counseling. So what happens is, in any relationship, be it a relationship with your family, be it with your partner, sometimes even with friends, over time we just get into a routine. So all of us end up doing things, and at the end of the day, we're left with a feeling that we're being taken for granted, or either our family member or our partner does not acknowledge what we're doing. And being human, all of us need appreciation, we need acknowledgement, And it is not very easy to approach this subject with your partner or with your family members all the time, because unfortunately everybody in the family is feeling the same. So we are all contributing and we are all feeling unappreciated. At that point in time, if you sit with the opposite person for a discussion, or you sit within the family for a discussion, what happens is we don't find a solution. Instead, we just start doing a blame game. I have done so much, you have done so much, you have not done enough. And that is really where a therapist or a counselor or a third person or an intervention from a third person, especially a trained one, would help. Because one, we are at our best behavior and we're ready to listen to the other person. Right? So if there is one person who you know will not take sides, will listen to each one of you and be able to find a solution. Like I said, solutions are usually with us, but most of the time we don't even want to listen to the opposite person. So having something like this, a structural approach, gives everybody the opportunity to understand themselves and the others. So here is a person who, without offending anybody, will tell you about the positives in the opposite person and might even point out a few things that you're doing wrong and you need to correct yourself. So I believe that is where counseling or therapy is very, very essential. And with changing times, life is definitely getting more complicated. The world is more open. We have more choices, which also means that we come with more confusions, more problems. And like you said, sometimes there's a generation gap. So there are lots of things that can happen in a relationship or a family. So I definitely believe that approaching somebody, even for I guess a couple of sessions, would definitely put things into perspective for everyone.
Please have something to share on this topic. You keep counseling a lot of students, a lot of people. So what are your takes on what usually is the problem that people come up with? Any solutions that you can give our audience about this?
Thank you, Sarosh. I think you touched on a lot of relevant points. So one takeaway from here is that reach out. It's not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength that you want to work on yourself and that you want to empower yourself. So when you're not finding the answers that you're seeking from your family, from your friends, all the well-meaning intentions that they have, sometimes they're not able to communicate to you, or rather you're not able to communicate to them how you're feeling inside. Your most innermost thoughts need to be explored and you need to get some insights. And that happens when you are with a trained professional. And this is a concept, again, if we go back to how it all started, the misconceptions that people have regarding mental health. They kind of think that it is only associated with people who have certain mental conditions. Now, again, those things just don't come up. There are reasons for it. There could be biological reasons, there could be a psychological reason, or a social reason. So the epigenetics, though you may have some genetic component of developing a mental health condition, doesn't mean it will happen. Okay? So you have to be very careful about your interactions, who you are dealing with, what kind of social relationships you have. All that contributes to healthy mental health, right? So make sure if you're feeling any gap in that, you seek. Okay? Let it be anyone that, for your physical health, for example, if you have aches and pains, you have fever, and you have some unknown thing that you are going through, you go and see doctors help, right? They help you diagnose things. Now with mental health, it's not that easy, right? You have to really put in some effort. You need to go to somebody who can, walk you through different things, explore things with you, and like how Sarosh had mentioned, somebody to listen to you without passing any judgments. That's a safe environment where you can be yourself. You can discuss what's really bothering you, come up with the solutions. On your own. The person will guide you through it. And how, there are many points that she had spoken about the solutions, like she said, are within ourselves. The answers are within ourselves. We just don't know how to, across the generations, across the age that you are in, whatever age you are in, and what stage of life you are in. It's important that you check in with your management, see what's going on there. And things are done smoothly at that time. So that would be my main purpose here, to kind of focus on it. So I hope that kind of answers it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope a lot of you might be having a lot of questions, and I'm sure all of you must at least have once gone through this phase wherein you didn't know what to do and you dealt with that. So I'm hoping all of you would keep your questions ready. There will be a questions round after the panel discussion, so be ready with your questions. You must be having a lot of doubts as this topic is not familiar with all of us, including me, right? So I would want all of you to keep your questions ready for our panelists. So coming on that part, there are a lot of mental health platforms that are coming forward to solve this issue, and being there is one of the biggest things that we can do as a person ourselves. So my next question is to Jayanti ma'am. Ma'am, what was the reason behind coming up with Doctorite, and how has your experience been so far with regards to the response from people? Mental health is rarely spoken by people. What, according to you, should the government and we as a society should be doing to educate people on mental health? And Doctorite has been doing this since so long, so I would want your insights on this.
Anyone hear me? Okay. All right, I'm not going to say Happy Mental Health Day, because you said it's a oxymoron. I'm just going to say this is a day for us to focus on really being aware of how we need to really take care of our mental well-being, rather than a mental health day or a mental illness day. So let's just focus on our mental well-being. All of us, including any one of us, whether age, no bar, need to get up every morning and decide if you are really feeling great today or not feeling great today. Do I really want to get out of bed? Am I feeling this way for the past 1 week? And we simply need to really work on it, right? Especially after post-COVID. And to your point, how did a Doctorite evolve into this mental health platform? When COVID started, my co-founder sitting there, one of my co-founders, the name Doctorite was given by him, very apt, maybe, not so sure. But for the Gen Z generation, they decided Doctorite was too doctory. So we came up with another name called Visible, which is what we use in our, is the app name that we use within the colleges in India. So how we evolved this was in 2020, when COVID started, we were just exploring what to do next. I was in a full-time job. I had never been an entrepreneur before, and I'm much older than any one of you here. So this was my first journey foraying into entrepreneurship. My co-founders had been doing that. So we kind of mucked around and said, okay, let's do telehealth. Now, I had just moved to India at that point, and I didn't think there were a whole lot of regulations in healthcare in India, and I come from a highly regulated healthcare industry in the US. So we decided to do a telehealth platform. We did it. We rolled it out in some of the small districts in Telangana. While we did that, we realized through that journey, we were also helping a lot of people with a lot of their COVID needs. People were anxious, they were stressed, fearful of COVID, needed transportation, needed this, needed that, whatever that may be. As we went through our own journeys of helping people, and at that point I was still with a corporate job, and I had an opportunity to lead the diversity group within that company for a lot of the mental health issues, fear, stress, and being cooped up in a small confined places with extended families, so on and so forth. So all of those combined experiences post-COVID allowed us to decide that we can't just do a telehealth platform. We have to do something more than that. So we started, what we found out is people needed somebody to listen to, basically just be heard, right? And that was the biggest drawback of the social isolation. Mandatory social isolation led to a lot of loneliness within people. Even though you were living with families, even though you were living with, you were interacting with social media through friends and all of that, you still were lonely. And that's a very subjective feeling. That's something you really cannot express. Nobody can really understand when you say, I'm lonely when you're with so many people, right? They think there's something wrong with you. It's not so much that something is wrong with you. It's more so that people felt that they couldn't be themselves, express themselves, and all of you have reiterated that. How do you express yourself honestly and not feel the fear of being judged? Whatever that may be, it's a startup or your school or your college or marriage or whatever, your neighbor's dog, I don't know. Whatever that may be, right? We have our own challenges. And that was the biggest aha moment for us to start take DocRight towards the mental health journey. So we started with listeners, what we call listeners. Basically, it requires, it's an art, it's a skill you learn to be an active listener. You're not going to give any recommendation. When you talk to your friends, they will say, oh, why don't you try this? Or why don't you do that? If you go to your parents, they will say, I think you should just quit all of this nonsense and go back to a 9-to-5 job. I'm sure many of you have heard that. So everybody will give you suggestions or ideas or advice, but nobody is wanting for you to be able to share your full story and let you just share your story for what it is worth. Okay, not have any opinion on it, not give you any thoughts on it, just share your story. I heard it and that's it, that's the end of it. Through the sharing of that story, you may come up with your own solutions. So my role as a listener would be is to just keep asking, be inquisitive to ask the right question so you can come up with your own answers. Not me giving you any advice, because I don't know, I'm not in your shoes. I can say I'm empathetic, but I really am not in your shoes. I don't understand your family culture. I don't understand what your background is. So I will never be able to fully empathize with you. All I can do is to be able to ask you enough questions that you can find your own answers. And ask them in a way that allows you to safely share with me without you being judged or, or felt that, you are going to be considered a basket case or anything like that, right? That's what we were on the journey for. And that's how the whole, the evolution of DocRight towards a mental health platform started. We started with listeners. Then we rolled it out in colleges. We have about 6,000 users. And through the colleges, of course, Gen Z generation, all of you right here, that I don't relate to so well because I am from Gen X generation. So what we found out is they needed something more gamified, something more fun. While we were looking at, it's a selfie culture, which I am not very familiar with, and I take terrible selfies. So what we realized is we needed more gamified apps, gamified modules built into the app to kind of get people to engage with the platform more. That's how more of our modules came up. We started having people take pictures, post that, so they would know whether they're feeling depressed, calm, happy, whatever, right? There are several sets of emotions. That would give them a sense of, okay, maybe, I'm feeling disturbed inside, but I'm not that bad today. I can probably get through the day, right? So that would give them a little bit better sense and a little bit better control over their emotions. Then we decided for our psychologists or counselors, they needed some standardized testing. They need to know if you're truly depressed, if you're suicidal, if you are feeling like you are at the end of everything, you just want to give up. We need to know that, right? That requires some standardized testing to be done. So we added that module. Then we added a whole telehealth. Mental health is not just about mental health. As you rightly said, it also combines physical health. How do you really bring about mental health? If your vitamin B is low, B12 is low, if your vitamin D is low, which for most of us it is low, it's a silent pandemic in the world today, that causes depression, anxiety, stress. So how do you address physical and mental health combined? So then we created another module where we make you more self-police yourself for the exercises you do. Are you taking nutritional meals? Are you doing yoga or meditation? Whatever works for you, right? Are you on the treadmill or are you running? Whatever works for you. So those are important things. More so after COVID because people found themselves at home. Trust me, I used to be the social butterfly. 30 years I have spent most of my time in a plane. Okay? I travel Monday through Friday every day. American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Qatar, all of these airlines literally knew me because I was on a plane every single day of my life. From that to 2 years of sitting at home, now just to step outside the house to go get some maybe bread is hard on me because I'm like, oh my God, I have to dress up and go outside the house now. I have my maid who is my emotional police who pushes me out of the house, even today, right? So that's where we have all become, right? It's very hard for us to socialize or go out or find any excuse, oh, we'll just do it over the Zoom or we'll just do it over Google Meet or whatever, right? Another video conferencing call we do. Terrible. We are social animals. And if you don't socialize, that's just terrible, right? You can't read people's body language over video. You can't really see if they're totally engaged with you when you're on a video. The reason you're having us do this in person is people can see each other. There is an energy that's being, exchanged here, which doesn't happen over the video. So I think it's very important to be able to step out and meet. So the social isolation also led to a lot of people having extra anxiety around physical health, weight gain issues, not eating well, ordering food from random places, right? I'm sure Zomato and Swiggy went up the roof in their valuation because of social isolation. But that also added to it. So how do we really get back to a better balance of physical and mental health? How do we bring that well-being in a holistic well-being in ourselves? That was the journey that we are on. Now to your second question, how can government and society as a whole help create better mental health awareness? Governments can create policies, regulations, maybe some impositions, maybe fines if you don't do something. They can do that, right? There are a handful of people that are going to do that. But there is 1.3 billion people sitting in India, right? As a society, how am I contributing to my own mental well-being and others around me? That's a question I have to ask myself. And that's a question I have to ask myself every day for myself also. And I tell you, it comes from a space of being emotionally aware. Even if I am, there are days when I'm terrible. My co-founder is judge to this, witness to this. And there are days I'm just, I'm a complete basket case, okay? So and so, my husband says, he calls me at a certain time every day and he says, this is your friendly doctorate listener. And that's how he starts his conversation with me. He continues to live in US. And so that's how it goes. So all of us at certain points in time in our life, need people to be on our side, on our camp, and to accept us regardless of where we are. Okay? Just because we have 30 years of experience or I'm in my early 50s or whatever, doesn't make me more wiser than somebody else when it comes to mental health. It doesn't. It's the time of the day, it's what I've undergone in the morning, what makes me who I am that day. Okay? Sometimes mornings are great, sometimes evenings are great, sometimes the whole day is bad. Okay? And then you start self-doubting, to your point, right? Oh my God, I don't know, did I do the right thing? Should I be doing this anymore? Should I run away from this? These questions will come, no matter what age you are in, at what stage you are in, how financially independent you are, it doesn't matter. Every journey brings those self-doubts. So we have a moral responsibility, an ethical responsibility, and the onus is on us to first become emotionally intelligent. That means starting with accepting our own challenges that we go through. You spoke about it, right? So Sarosh, I went through a lot of challenges in my life. I had to learn to be able to speak about them without feeling the fear of being judged. It's very simple, right? The more you speak about it, out of 10 people, 5 will judge you, 5 won't. It doesn't matter. You've done your speaking. Once you let it out of your system, it's easy for you to move on. It frees you. Because that dialogue doesn't exist in your mind anymore. You're not having this monologue with yourself, oh my God, what is she going to think? It's gone. It's already gone, right? So it helps. So I think as a society, each one of us could be a little bit more emotionally aware of ourselves and listen to people without getting distracted by social media. When somebody is talking to you, one of the biggest things that I've noticed today is people look at their phones and start scrolling when somebody's talking to you. They don't make any eye contact, they're not paying attention to you, they start scrolling or picking up calls. Put the phones on silent. When you start doing that, you are more engaged with it. The more engaged you are, the better it becomes. And it's a work in progress for me every day. Every day I have to do that. So that's, I think it has to start at this, at the individual level. Then the society as a whole can become a little bit more normalized in the conversations we have. When we don't focus on so much of the mental health being a focus area, but on just being, listening to the other person as a human being, it normalizes the conversation. It's no longer now, oh, she has a problem, I have a problem. It's just normal conversation. That's how you normalize it. Once we do that, the additional regulation, policies, governance can help build a healthier society. That's how I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The situations are changing, getting better with regards to mental health, and that is a very good thing that is happening these days when compared to the earlier days. But still, there are a lot of misconceptions, a lot of myths about mental health. Whenever they hear mental health, they relate it with Erragata usually. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, right? People think mental health is not for everybody, and जो दिमाग से खराब है, सिर्फ उन लोगों के लिए ही जरूरत है. And in our conversations as well, when we talk to our friends, we take it as a joke. इसको जाके Erragata में admit करो. We keep hearing a lot of this. And coming to the therapy part, a lot of us, अब इनसे बात करने के लिए पैसे खर्चा करना पड़ता है, बस बात करने के लिए. This is another myth that is with regards to therapy, and people don't come forward, and but the same amount they would like to spend on every other stuff. And I have seen this, being a student, I have seen this personally happening. We would like to spend a lot on movies, a lot on going out with friends, riding, etc. But when it comes to therapy, we step backward. So, coming on to our main topic, my question is to all the panelists, to our topic for today's panel discussion, therapy. Is it a luxury or the necessity? And I would like to take the insights from all of the panelists, starting from Miraj.
I'll go last.
Oh, sure. Might as well be done. So, therapy is a luxury or a necessity. Frankly speaking, I still debate that question in myself, whether it's because, see, even today, right, therapy, counseling is sought by people who have money, who are a bit more well-to-do, who are more aware, and those are the people who are seeking therapy services. Most others think they can handle it on their own, right? I mean, if I talk to my maid, who's 23-year-old young kid, extremely, sharp, and she'll say, oh, दिमाग में कुछ नहीं है, वो ऐसे ही थोड़ा दिन ठीक हो जाएगा. It doesn't matter. They all think they can solve it on their own. So I think it continues to be the access to therapy is for the privileged even today. It's not available to everyone, to the mass. How do we make this more available to the mass will require, first, as we said, right, making ourselves more available to talk to people. That's number one. Second, trying to figure a way out where we can offer these services at a much lesser cost. That will require some policy changes, maybe creating some community behavioral health centers. I don't know what that will require, but it's going to require far more than just government imposing some things on people and people themselves initiating this, maybe more non-profit organizations, I don't know. It's going to require that. Third, it has to be where the psychologist is not considered, they used to call them colloquially a shrink, right? We don't want to call you a shrink anymore. We want to call them people that they can just somebody to talk to. Now, with the virtual healthcare, where you are able to talk to people remotely, that should become much more easy for people to have these kind of sessions. These kind of sessions that you're having, maybe these are the ways you invite a bunch of psychologists and have a mass session for the first 20 minutes and then one-on-one with the first 10 people that are more attentive or answer a question, make it a giveaway, I don't know. Those are the ways we are going to be able to provide access to the masses at a starting point, at least to the student generation. Then, of course, you also have the rural healthcare, right? They are the least, the most underserved population for mental health, and they generally have a large sense of community. They support each other a lot more. So they are also a lot more balanced. They also are an extended family. So their sense of, and the less competition, the urban competition in terms of having, the fancier car or the fancier whatever it is that they need. Those are all not a sense of urgency for them. So for them to be able to, access healthcare is going to require that we do far more rural health centers that address mental health as part of the physical health, not mental health alone. So you can't have a mental health clinic because nobody would go there. But if you say this is your primary health clinic and here you address your holistic care and equip your primary care physicians with tools that they can take care of the mental health, that I think will really address the problem because then nobody feels like they came to address their depression. They came to address their diabetes, or they came to address, I don't know, infection, whatever. And then they got to address their holistic care. That may be another helpful way to do it. Third is, creating this yoga and meditation is very well known in India. Everybody, so often you find so many people that are well skilled in it, and they are, that's the union of body and mind. How can we integrate these wellness centers to be able to do more educational sessions throughout semi-urban and rural India? That's another way to look at it. I think it has to be non-traditional ways to explore and penetrate mental health. Not just look at mental health as additional component that you have to address separately. That's when it becomes a stigma, that's when there are barriers, that's when people do not want to seek therapy. So, I don't know if I answered your question.
Can you repeat that question? I don't know.
Is it luxury or a necessity?
Going back to that, as a counselor, I feel it is a necessity, and the reason I feel that way is that when I see clients coming to me, they come from all walks of life, different stages in life, but there is a need that they want to seek this, but then sometimes they are kind of pushed through into it by a family member. Then they're not as willing, because someone has imposed this on them. But when they come and they talk to the parents, when they talk to us, they realize how important it was for them to get another perspective, which is like how she had mentioned, it has to be done in a non-judgmental way, because you're being judged constantly every day. So it's important that a person normalizes this conversation in our daily life. We, it starts with healthcare, where you go to a doctor, and then the questions that all the anxiety symptoms that come up, oh, my stomach is hurting when I do this, do that. First question a doctor might need to answer is, how's your mental health? How are you doing emotions? How are things with you? Like, ask those relevant questions. That will give you more insight as a healthcare professional as to what's happening with that patient of theirs. And then connect them to people who could help them. Or it could be just, you need to be understood more. Talk to your family, something like that. So it has to be normalized from that state. If you, and also conversations when you're having with your friends. Again, saying that, oh, you should go to, a mental asylum for any little thing that you're feeling off. You need to be able to say that, yes, these are some negatives, emotions that a person is going through. Now, we need to be able to say to ourselves, these emotions are normal. Everybody feels these emotions because they give you a data point as to what's happening in your mind, what you need to check on. If you're feeling sad about something, yes, there is something wrong. If you're feeling angry about something, yes, there is something wrong. At what level it is you're feeling that. There's a healthy level of it, and then there is unhealthy level of that. So when you say you are, from a scale of 1 to 10, you're feeling angry or sad, or maybe sometimes it's envy and jealousy involved, with all the negative emotions that you guys are kind of aware of. If it's in the range of 1 to 5, you're still functioning okay. But if it's beyond that, there is something that you need to do about it. But that's not healthy. So what happens is, to avoid that, what do? You go see, you probably, binge eat. You eat something that you really like, it makes you feel good, then you want to eat it again. Then the same Swiggies and Zomatos get more business because you are filling your loneliness with something that made you feel good by eating whatever that you like. And then people might go to unhealthy ways of coping. For example, they might use substances because that makes them feel a little better for a short amount of time. So all these are unhealthy practices. Now, what we need to understand that those are unhealthy practices, and we need not do them as often. Sometimes you watch media and you just go on scrolling back to back and then binge watching. Before you know, your whole day is gone. But what you're feeling inside remains the same. You still feel worse, right? So those are the things that you need to know. That how do I problem solve? What's an issue? I need to work on it. What do I how to sympathize. So we don't know how to put ourselves in someone's shoes, see things from their perspective. Right? Have compassion for anyone who's going through something. Not just say, hey, go to a psychiatrist or someone, because those are the last things, resources that we need to do. You have first different levels of it. Explore that. Right? If a person comes to you, shares things, don't be jumping to go, no, you know what, take a pill, you'll feel better. Or do something like that. You need to be able to develop these skills, be a better listener, not listen to respond, but listen just because you want to listen. Not to just, usually that's what happens. They listen, but they want to say something back. And then they're not listening to the content of it. So let's do that. Let's make it something that is normalized, and people think that it is something that we can see, something that's necessary, not a luxury to use, based on whatever things that you stated. So yeah, you guys are the ones who are going to take this further.
So I believe that therapy always existed from time immemorial, but it has a name now. It's become a profession now. It has a price. What used to happen earlier, that we were a close-knit society. We lived in joint families. We had more people to talk to. So if something does happen, if I say have a fight with my husband, I go and talk to my sister-in-law. I talk to somebody. And there is a solution given. Most of the times, like I said, it's not about the solution, it's about somebody listening to you. And that makes you feel better. So, but as we evolved, our families have become smaller, they've become busier, our problems have become slightly more complicated because the world, like I said, has opened up. Today there are more things that we need to deal with than probably our grandmothers or their grandmothers. Their life was pretty simple, ours isn't. And as I see you guys, my children, lives are more complicated. You're getting to know so much more at such an early age that sometimes you don't really know what to do with that information, how to deal with it, and what is right and what is wrong. And that is the reason why this mental health has become a thing. There is a label to it. Therapy or therapists have come into picture. And of course, there's a price to it also because everybody's time is valuable. Yours is the person there. And a lot of times you kind of tend to take things seriously when you're giving it a commitment, be it in terms of time or in terms of money. Right? So that's where the evolution of mental health, say therapy, or earlier it was just about your physical well-being. A physical problem is visible, a mental problem is not visible. That's the reason it took so long for this to probably become a profession or get a name or for it to come out like this publicly. So yes, and that is also one of the reasons why it might seem like a luxury because unfortunately a very glamorous tag has been added to it. Right? So when you see celebrities talk about it, I went to my therapist, or you hear of psychologists or psychiatrists charging 50,000 for an hour, you tend to immediately think, oh my God, that's a luxury product, right? But you also have to realize that one good thing now is that awareness has spread, and a lot of people are doing it not literally for the money, but for the reason that they have probably gone through something or they've seen somebody in their families who've gone through something and they want to contribute. Like how Good Mind's doing and like a lot of organizations like Dr. is doing. It's becoming easier these days, at least in the last decade it's become a lot more easy. And one thing is we keep talking about your generation, you're after our generation, and kudos to you guys because you're more open, you're not as scared as we were. Sometimes I joke that we're the last generation that's scared of our parents and our children, and the first to be scared of our children. But jokes apart, it's really nice that all of you are more open. You're ready to come and talk about it. We were more scared, we were more shy. So great, keep it up. And yes, it might seem like a luxury, but it's not. It's always been there. Today you might need a professional, like I said, because the problems are slightly more complicated, and that's what it is.
I've thought through this, by the way.
I knew that's talk to us.
Not really. Not. So I'm very fortunate to be, a part of many panel discussions. But this is probably the first panel where I'm the only guy. So I wanted the ladies to lead.
Time for a gentleman.
The chivalry is not there yet. Okay. So I really think therapy is a necessity that's not available Monday through Friday, and then it becomes automatically a luxury that we can't afford on Saturday and Sunday. Right? So this is very strongly that I why? Because see, anything that makes you happy, we term therapeutic, right? It does not necessarily, and like they rightly put, finding somebody a sounding board, right? Somebody who can relate with what you're trying to say. And this is exactly what technically makes my job very satisfactory to me, is the fact that a lot of people that walk into Adventure Park think that I can relate with them, and I can relate with them, right? Co-founder conflicts, I've been through it. Investor cheating, I've been through it. Partners, giving up, been through it. Customers ditching you, been through it. You name it, and I've probably been through it. So when you come from a point where you can relate with someone, you automatically form a bond, right? And like she mentioned, right, therapists, are unbiased and put up, do not take sides, and they technically put up maybe a side that you did not look at before you spoke to them. That's exactly what makes me, I'm not a qualified therapist, but all I do is sit and listen, right? They go on and on and on and on, and I have mastered the art of listening. A lot of times I'm lost, but they don't see it, and we go on, right? It's become a luxury because we can't find that therapeutic person, that guy, right? Or that girl, or that friend, or that counselor of yours, and that's exactly that. Scarcity has made it a luxury, right? And technically speaking, glamorizing it, like they rightly put it again, right? Celebrities talking about Deepika Padukone does not have to be mentally sick, right? She has everything that one would want from life. She's rich, she's famous, she has Ranveer Kapoor. Right? So what is she, not happy about, right? So that's what I'm talking about. There are a zillion things that you see, but there are a zillion things that you can't see, right? And this is what makes it a luxury. What makes it a necessity, which is unavailable, is the fact that there are more people like us who needs help, and there are very few people who offer help, right? Which is what makes it a very, important necessity, which is not available. Some like Uber, right? When it's available, there is surge pricing, but when you badly need it, it's just not there, right? And you're willing to do whatever the cab wale bhaiya will ask you to do, still you don't get it, and that's exactly the whole thing. What I would suggest is all of us, just start practicing the art of listening, right, without judging, and allowing to settle the fact within ourselves that everybody is different and everybody can be different, and that's absolutely okay. Which is what makes us a very, happy place, safe place, yes, but more important than a safe place, a happy place. Because all the students, when they walk in here, they know for a fact that, they can be anything that they want to be. They can be a vegetarian, they can be a non-vegetarian, they can wear Western, they can wear Indian, they can come at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Whatever they want to do, they can do, right? This is not something that they had before, right? They were on a leash, and we human beings are not used to being on a leash. And the minute somebody just, takes off that leash, you feel liberated. You feel, you have achieved freedom. You gain independence, and that, sense of air, touching your skin is really important. And this is what I want all of you to become, right? You can become that institution where people can sit with and feel themselves. That's it, right? And we don't have to do it. And the more you do it, the better you
the more, let's say, happier our communities become, happier our, places become, be it schools, be it offices, be it, anything, right? That's what I would say. Luxury and necessity, but more importantly, I think it is a conversation that I now very badly and very desperately think has to start happening in our homes, right? In the most comfortable way possible, whatever works with your parents, whatever works with your siblings, whatever works with your partners, but this conversation has to get started, right? We might have to figure out interesting and creative ways to get this conversation started and, not, get termed as tumhara kaam pura ho gaya, right? Which we usually get to with, especially in Hyderabad. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Raj, and all the panelists. So I think we came to the conclusion that it's again on us the way we take therapy as. It's not a luxury. It's just our misconception that we think it is a luxury, but it is the need. It is the need of an art. So with this, I would like to open questions to audience.
Hi everyone. First of all, it's an honor to hear everyone. So much wisdom in this room. Honestly inspired right now. My question is for Sarosh ma'am. So most of us over here are aspiring psychologists, therapists, and we're conditioned since we study that we have to have the etiquette, the persona of having completely neutral to our client. But as a counselor, as a therapist, as a psychologist, is it better for us to be empathetic or sympathetic towards our client? Which one do you think is better?
Thank you. This is a very, very good question. Now, sympathy is when you're here and you're looking down on somebody, right? And you're feeling sorry for that person. When you're feeling sorry for that person, you cannot really help that person, right? You cannot. So if you are going to be a therapist or a counselor, empathy is what you go with. Only when you're empathetic to somebody, you understand, you put yourself in their shoes. And like Jenny said, you cannot always understand what that person is going through, but when you look at them from that angle, like you and I are equal, right? I empathize with you, I feel you. That is when you can actually help that person. That's when you're not writing off certain things that that person says, because a few things that people might come to you with might be very silly, might be extremely silly. Like she said, my neighbor's dog is coming and standing in front of my door, right? So that might seem ridiculous if you're looking at somebody from this perspective or this angle and saying, okay, you're beneath me, right? I know more than you. No, every case for us is also a learning. So empathy is the word to go with.
Any more questions?
Hello, I'm Ilyas, and first thing, I completely agree with your point. I really liked it, how we live lives compared to cities and towns. Just remembering that if you just go to Mehboob and if you ask where does Miraj or his brother Minhaj live, you'll find a lot of people who say, yeah, they live there and they think. But if come here and you ask in the same apartment, where does this person live, they feel like I have no clue. So my question is for you and Pratibha ma'am. How often do you feel like, I should quit therapy or counseling? Because it's not an easy thing. Listening to people is not an easy thing. Do you feel that? And when you feel low, do you, have therapy for yourself, or do you even take it? Does counselors even take therapy?
We should start counseling each other.
Yeah. So that's a great question. As counselors, we listen to a lot of things. Sometimes it's really frustrating and overwhelming for us because there's so much that comes at you, right? And you do feel things, and they're trying stories that move you a lot. So what do you do about it? We have coping skills that we also teach our clients to do this, do that. react at home, I'm like, I'll talk to my parents. I'll talk to my counselor and get a better perspective. Am I wrong in thinking that way? Because we need to figure out, we need to understand that people think what thoughts are, they are the facts, but they're not. They're just visuals and words that pop up into our minds. Most of them are not really helpful. And this is a constant doom and gloom that happens for many clients and even for us. It's a chatter that's constantly happening, right? And you think that, oh, that might be true. So, so when you're on top of it, you're hearing other people tell you things. Or you need somebody to listen to your perspective. So it's important that you have, that's the reason why I was saying that having her going through therapy sessions for her issues, as therapists, it's always important to check in on your mental health so that you are there 100% really. So it's always important to fill that cup of yours constantly. And I keep telling Sanya that, and other founders as well, that you've got to take care of yourself. It starts with self-care, and it is a part of self-care. I hope that answers.
So, coming to your first question, every case that I deal with, we don't have a 100% success rate because even when somebody realizes that they need help, it's like there's a ball rolling and you put a stick, right? The ball does not stop immediately, it will roll for a while. So a lot of people take therapy, for some time they just back off because if you need to make changes, sometimes when you look in the mirror it's not very beautiful, and they come back again. So when you get such cases, you do feel obviously a bit low, thinking that, oh, I wish there was some other way I could convince this person to not give up on themselves. But often than not, they come back. But then with every case, I've only felt more stronger about this. It's only made me feel that I'm in the right path. And never once did I ever want to give up, and I think I'm very lucky. And every time you talk to somebody, like I said, it's a learning for us as well. Sometimes you listen to stories which make you feel so grateful about your life. But then yes, there are some stories that especially if people are known to you and they come up with things that you don't know how to help them with because they're probably from the past, or you need to push them to do a certain thing that they might not be willing to do to help themselves. It does trouble you, yes. But on the whole, never have I ever felt like giving it up. I only feel like I could learn more, I could do more. And like she said, yes, apart from taking what we do from our cases, from our clients, we are human too, we do have our issues as well. So yes, we have therapists, we have buddy counselors, we have just buddies who probably, like she and I might be buddies, we discuss issues with each other. So yes, on different levels we take help too. And I think all of us should.
Yeah, so the second part of the question is, do you ever feel like giving up doing this profession? And I just have to add to that you don't. You see the need, you know that someone needs you, and that makes you possible.
My name is Mudassir. I'm afraid I think I might lower the collective IQ of the room, but I just have to ask. Right? So this is for you, my member of the Indiana Psychological Association. We have so many MDs after BPS for physical health. And each, let's say, domain has multiple specializations. There is around 10 or 12 MDs who just opt for super specialization stuff. But for entire branch of mental health, we just have a single MD psychiatrist. And why is it so? And can we do something about it? I mean, just a little bit of context that I have is mental health leads to around 10% of the morbidity. Right? So I think there should be some kind of balance. Why is it not?
It's a very relevant question, and in fact, I want to share a story. I have a friend whose daughter is currently going through counseling for taking her specialization. Her first thought was, I want to be a psychiatrist. And then after a while, she decided not to do that. And I was like, why? What was the reason that you did not, or your daughter is not taking that? Because it's not considered as valuable. Because hospitals are not supporting them. Because people kind of think that you are off, you are doing this job, but it's not required. It's something very niche that you're looking at. So they have that stigma too. So it hasn't been taught well in medical schools that mental health is important, though they know the need of it, but it hasn't been normalized. If they do, then more people will take it up. They will know that this is just as important as any other field. You have to do this more. So that's another division that new generation has, lack of awareness. They know it at a certain level, but they don't study it enough. They don't talk to their people enough. So I was like, why don't you let your daughter talk to other counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists to get a better perspective? But again, to find good quality of psychiatrists, counselors and therapists is also a challenge, right? And we all have these inhibitions, again, going back to misconceptions about this field. So if you talk to someone in the field of trying to choose this, encourage them. We need more people to talk about it. And I'm glad you're doing it.
We had the entire pandemic come up and we had like a silent review, let's say, mental health epidemic, the university went silently. People took lakhs and lakhs of loans on a daily basis. Each day of hospitalization required, let's say, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh during the peak phase. I don't see people taking something towards, let's say, a loan for therapy, or let's say the organizations or institution not having something like a therapy fund. Let's say my employees or my whoever requires. I don't even see families planning for it, like we have marriage fund, we have this fund and that fund, but not even assuming that, okay, this is going to be a situation.
A really good question. I'm sorry, what's your name? This very good question. See, to allocate funds for mental health, for therapy, for making sure that you are integrated in a holistic way, fully with it, right? Not just physically. It's something where people don't really pay attention. And just to add to one point before I address that question, Pratibha just said that people don't want to take the job of a psychiatrist because it's not glamorous. Okay, it's not. I mean, if you say I'm a psychiatrist, you're not an oncologist, you're not a cardiologist, you're not glamorous, you're not sexy. You're not marketable in the marriage market in India, apparently. So, there are a lot of other things why people won't become a psychiatrist. Also, recently I had a good fortune of attending a conference in Orlando, where I presented a paper on social isolation and loneliness. I had the fortune of presenting it to about 150 physicians across the country who were leading big hospitals. And many of them came to me and said, oh my God, I don't want to deal with mental health in my clinic or in my hospital. You know why? It's a rabbit hole. Why is it a rabbit hole? Oh, I don't want my patients to come and start bawling in front of me because that will take up my time and I cannot finish my work. So there is a bigger issue of productivity, non-profit, for-profit organizations wanting to make their money, more patients and footprints to come, more tests to be done. In mental health, what kind of lab tests would you give? Not very many, right? I mean, there has to be a reason for you to take an ultrasound, an MRI, and a doctor, and what have you, right? But if you have the, a bone density issue, 10,000 rupees for a, doctor test. So there are reasons why people don't go into psychiatrists, and that's one of the main reasons. Globally, the number of psychiatrists and psychologists have come down significantly, and there are no new crop of psychologists or psychiatrists coming up either. So, in order to address that, you're going to have employers have to start looking at it. Now, many of the employers as a tick-off item today offer mental health. But how many of those employees take those mental health? They don't. Why? Because they are afraid that their employer will know about it and they will be judged. Again, there is a stigma. So without addressing the root cause of stigma, there is no funding, there is no allocation, there is no specific focus, there is no normalization of conversation, there's nothing is going to happen. How does the root cause of stigma be addressed? How are we going to address it? That can only happen when we all start talking about mental health without mentioning it as mental health. It is health. Why is it mental health? Why is there a specific focus? When you go to a doctor, you say, I'm going to the doctor. You don't say, I'm going to the doctor to address the toe infection I have. Or you don't say, I'm going to the doctor because I had a, blah, blah, blah. Unless somebody asks you the second question, why are you going to the doctor? You never say why you're going to the doctor, do you? Then for mental health, why are we saying, oh, I'm going to the mental health doctor? Why would you say that? You're just going to the doctor. And as long as the PCPs, the primary care physicians, are equipped to address basic level of mental health in their clinics, just asking questions, how is your mental health? How are you feeling? Are you anxious? Have them take basic tests. Have them, ask them about their social. You talked about social skills, right? Do they have somebody to talk to? Yes, you talked about it. Today we are very eager to talk. Very difficult for us to listen to somebody. If we can listen to somebody for 1 time, 2 times, at the maximum 3 times, if the person keeps coming back because they think you are an anchor and keep coming back to you with their problems, you're going to run away. You're going to find ways to not engage them. Right? You're going to have other busy things that you have to do. So that one person, that your one anchor is missing in your life. So if we can become one anchor for just one person, it doesn't have to be 10 people. That's sufficiently enough to support the community as a whole. If we start doing that, then it becomes easier to talk about funding. It's easier to talk about support. It's easier to talk about where there is lack of extended families to get that group together. Easier to say, I'm having a really bad day. If nothing else, I can talk to this person and they will listen to me, no matter how stupid I sound, no matter how many times I call. As long as it doesn't become a stalking or an obsession. I think, there has to be a fine balance. But I think that has to be first set aside. Okay? We all have to become better listeners. Not good listeners, better listeners. Just pick one person in the group of people you know that you are always willing to open your heart to. One person. And let the person know, no matter what time or day, you're available to them. I think once you start doing that, you become better in your mental, because then you have got to bring that resilience in you, be able to listen to that conversation without having to advise them, without having to judge them, and holding your tongue back in the first few times, and also reflect on how you were with that person. The more you do that, the better patience you have. I think that's the starting point.
So I just remember my grandmother. If we would ever tell her, she has 24 grandchildren, anybody would go to her and say, I'm not feeling well, or with corona, she used to say, "Do niwale zyada kha ke so jao." Right? So that's what we hear at home. So I think the question you had was, why aren't there, more specializations or whatever? Because, like I said before, physical problems we can see, emotional, mental problems we cannot. And also this line is pretty new compared to the other fields of medicine. Psychiatry is very new, so we're still exploring. The human mind is still a mystery to a great extent. So your neurologist will take care of a few things, somebody else will take care of a few things. And also, like Jayanti mentioned, if you have a certain problem, so say you have a headache, you know who to go to, you have one test which will determine what it is. But mental health is something that maybe a few people need to get together and do. It's a little more complicated. So yes, in saying that there aren't many specializations, things are getting better in the field of psychiatry as well. People are specializing in different kinds of issues that we are dealing with. Another thing is sadly, we all believe, like my grandmother did, that if you let go of the issue, you forget about it, you have a fight today, tomorrow morning you wake up as a fresh person and it's all gone. So you brush it under the carpet. Most of us are taught to bury our issues and not to get them out and deal with them. So unfortunately, even when it comes to a corporate, I work in HR, I was taking care of general HR. Insurance was a big part of it. So you don't have insurance for problems, psychological problems and for dental problems. Dental they believe is cosmetic and psychological they believe is something that you can deal with. It's like you are supposed to be able to deal with your mental problems. You wouldn't need help. So that's majorly a misconception that people have. But things are changing now. I know that corporates are also changing their policies. And for whatever medical cover you have, a part of it is also given for psychological needs, also dental, if you want to. So yes, things are changing, which is for the better. I know it might not be very visible right now because it's probably a drop in the ocean, but I know that things are changing, people are becoming more aware.
I think we can take one last question.
Toss. It's fine.
Hello. Yeah, my question is to Saroj ma'am. We talked about the family, right? Joint family. My question is here is that, let me bring some statistics over here. Well, in a 1 lakh population in US, the 22 out of 1 lakh people get suicide. While it comes to India, it's 10.7. So when it's compared, when we compare India and US, in US the 50% suicide rates are more. So let me bring a point over here is that the nuclear family plays an important role, or the joint family plays an important role. Well, in a panel discussion, we brought a point over here is that when we have a joint family, we share our thoughts and we dilute ourselves with the family nature and all. But when it comes to that US nature, that nuclear family, so why they are more suicidal rates in US when compared to India? And yeah, and I don't know I will get my mic back or not. I have also a question with Jayanti ma'am. There is a lot of difference between Gen X and Gen X, Gen Z and Gen X people. So there is a generation gap. So when let me bring an example of myself. When I try to explain my mom about something like Adventure Park itself. There is an where I built a block in front of her, but there is a generation gap that cannot be explained at the end. At the end, it happens is that he's going somewhere, I don't know. So, that gap, how to fill, that's the question. It's like,
If you're talking about your mom, I couldn't explain what it is happens to my mom.
Right. So yes, we are all social creatures, we're social animals. But every country or continent has moved at its own pace. Life is different there, life is different here. I wouldn't just say India, but Asia as such. We still have that joint family community or the thing of togetherness. And I find that great because I visited China a couple of years ago and somebody was showing us one apartment and it had 4 bedrooms, one for the grandparents. So I realized that most Asian communities, even if you go to the Middle East, we are always taking care of our elders and the youngsters. So for me, even today, though my parents live with me wherever I was, the rule was that you call me in the morning, call me in the evening to make sure that we're fine. Right? So despite your finances, despite the fact that you're working, you're earning, you're married, it doesn't matter. So there is somebody to check up on you always. And I think in a lot of countries in the West, children move out of the house at the age of 18. We probably don't move out till we get married, even if it's at 35. Right? So that gives us a sense of responsibility and also makes our family responsible for us. So we constantly have our parents checking on us. If somebody is not eating, they say, what happened? What happened? Why aren't you eating? Or things like this. If you haven't slept, if you have dark circles, there's somebody checking up. Unfortunately, of course, there are a lot of good things about the West and the Western culture as well. But one of the sad things is that once your kids move out, everybody is taking care of their own lives, and the level of loneliness there is more. Though I would say that there is more judgment in India, but somewhere you have the cushion of your family and friends to fall back on, while they probably miss a part of it. So that's one of the reasons why I think we are slightly better off, and that's why the suicide rates are lesser. There might be other things, but yes, at the end of the day, in most cases, you will find somebody who's there to bring you out of that void that you're feeling or that feeling.
If I were to your question, if I may add a point, the reason it is also like that, she's saying, is society is the way we are. Culturally matters a lot. US is Western societies are more individualistic societies. They are more independent in their thinking and how they do things, right? So when it comes to Asia and countries like us, we are more collective society. We tend to be there and resolve issues like how she said. So the terminology that we would use is because of this kind of mindset, individualistic mindset that the Western culture has, and how we are as people, and we are always into each other's business too, and that kind of helps at times, right? So that's the reason.
Totally agree. I versus us. That's the biggest challenge. There, once you turn 18, in fact, once you turn 16, you're on your own. You have your own space, you have your own privacy, we know nothing about you. And that leads to a lot of not being able to share. And then even in your friends group, right? Peer pressures. Everybody has got their own pressures, so they want to really put up a front that they're great, they're successful, they're this and that. And so that adds to this whole issue of higher levels of suicide in the US. And also a lot of the gun violence that you see. Not necessarily all gun violence is related to mental health, but a lot of gun violence is related to feeling of loneliness, despair, anxiety, etc. So that does happen. So to answer your second question, how do I bridge the gap between Gen X and Gen Z? So let me put a disclaimer here. I have no kids. Okay, my 6-year-old niece is my best friend. So she thinks I am her friend, probably because I am of the same IQ and mental age as hers, or so she thinks. But how do I really relate? How do I bridge the gap? Right? I think forget that your mother or your parent has a certain opinion of whatever it is that you're doing, or thinks that you're out of control, or you're a loser, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? Forget that. I think what you can do is you're going to college and you're also doing this, right? And your passion is to do this. At least try it out. It works, doesn't work, is separate. Their fear is if you do this long enough that you may not graduate. Their fear is if you do this long enough that you may not get a job. Their fear is if you don't get a job that you will never be married. Okay? I'm assuming those are her fears. If you never get married, you will never have children and she will never become a grandmother. You see the story in her head. Her story is building up to another 25 years, right? She may not be alive then, but then her story is building up. Okay? So you're allowing or you're encouraging that story to build in her mind. Okay? Instead of that, you just tell her, look, first ask her, what is her ambition for you? Make her part of your journey. Get her inputs. It may not be valuable, that's okay. Get her inputs. Okay. Engage, make her an active participant. The way you can do that is first ask her what her ambition of you is. Does she fear that you won't graduate? Does she fear that you will not, quote unquote, take a job? Job is away, right? There's a time away. So you have time to figure it out. By that time, you can convert her. But until then, you need her to be on your side and not have her constantly nagging. That's what you're trying to avoid. So you are not stressed, so you can focus and you can continue doing what you're doing. Engage her, bring her on your side. Ask her, what is your ambition of me? Are you afraid of this? Are you afraid of that? Ask her those questions first. Then tell her, put a plan. Make a plan and tell her, look, my plan is not to quit my education, not quit my future. I'm going to do this as a side now, but as I see progress, as my aspirations grow, as I become more seasoned with it, that is a possibility I will become an entrepreneur. How can you help me become successful? When you make another person help you become successful, it's a pride they have. Because now you have made them part of your success journey. Right? It doesn't matter, parent or a friend or whatever, it doesn't matter. Everybody, thrives on success. Everybody thrives on feeling contributed, that they're contributing to something meaningful. And your parent is the same way. I'm Gen X too, man. I mean, I'm not that old that I wouldn't listen to somebody else, but you have to get them on your side. And you have to do it in a very careful way. Don't dismiss them, because a lot of times what happens is, Gen X dismisses the Gen Z because you're like, oh my God, these people have no attention. I always think your attention span is less than a goldfish. Goldfish is the least attention span. And I struggle with it, okay? When I train people, I'm like, oh my God, people just can't listen. So, I struggle with it too, okay? So that's the Gen X narrative, right? My monologue about you all. Similarly, you have a monologue about, oh my God, this old woman, what is she trying to do? That's your monologue, right? But if you can both engage, and the only way to do that with a parent, just because parent, there's a parent-child relationship, you have to get her on your side, ask her what her fears are of you, what her ambition is of you, what does she see as success for you? Because she's trying to live her dreams through you, right? Whatever she couldn't accomplish, she wants to see you do it. That's how you can engage her. Once you do that, right? She will just, she'll bring tea to you in the night, she will do whatever it requires it to be done to make you successful. I don't think there is a mother on this planet that will not want the child to be happy. They simply sometimes don't know. I'm a parent, so I'll tell you this. If I had a child, what I would be, I don't know. Maybe I would be a nut basket, I don't know. But I don't have children. So it's easier for me to relate to the different generations, much more easier. Because I still think in my head like a 20-year-old. And that's why I think I get along well with my niece, much better than anybody else, just because she thinks I'm her age. I don't know if I answered your question, but some food for thought, I guess.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you to all the panelists for giving your insight. I hope everybody must have taken something from this discussion. I would like to pass over the mic to Shreya.
Firstly, thank you so much to all our guests for sharing their meaningful insights with us on a day as special as the World Mental Health Day. Now I'd like to call upon Sanya to present a token of love and appreciation to Pratibha Soma. Moving forward, I'd like Sanya to present the memento to Saroshma. Going ahead, Sanya, please do the needful to please do the needful to Janaki ma'am. Last but definitely not the least, Miraj sir, thank you for everything you've done. I'd like Nas to take over.
Hi again. So, in a world with so much hustle, where everyone's working hard, we're constantly trying to do something for the whole world, and ourselves sometimes, mostly, but we often end up having no time to spare to take care of ourselves and find no one to talk to because everyone is already occupied with something and their own issues. So wouldn't it be amazing if we had a platform dedicated to making us feel better and providing us with a safe space and discuss the problems that worry us? So I am Naz. I'm a final year student in psychology, BA Psychology from Nizam College. And as a campus ambassador at Goodmind, I'm very, very happy and delighted to announce that you can accomplish just this by visiting our website, goodmind.co, and take the first step of taking our assessment. And that will give you an idea about where you are at life right now, how you're dealing with what is wrong with you, if there is or is not. So that is your first step to start taking care of yourselves. And yeah, that's all. I would like to once again, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and knowledge. Honestly, inspired. God, I don't even have words right now. So, Ashna, I would like for you to just end the vote of thanks.
Hello everyone. I think it a great honor to propose to you all the vote of thanks. Thank you all of you for coming forward to support a cause as big and as prominent as mental health. First of all, I would like to thank our guests, Pratibha Somo, Sarosh Samdani, Jayanti Subramaniam, and Miraj sir for sharing their knowledge and engaging all of us in such a meaningful conversation. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the wonderful audience who has gathered here today to make this event a success. Thank you all of you for coming forward and attending. I hope that we all meet soon and share more words of wisdom, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.